but we can go a little bit longer if people are okay with that.
Sure.
Okay, let me just double check that we are live. Take seconds, YouTube live and stuff.
Oh, there's comments coming in.
Yeah.
Woo.
We're live. Go a little bit longer. Okay.
Hello.
There are a lot of people on screen. I'm going to very quickly introduce myself. My name is Zara Hoffman. I'm a self-published author of young adult paranormal romance. And you might have noticed that I said I'm self-published, but this is a traditional publishing channel. That is because I'm moderating and have interned as a literary agent intern. So I might be adding some answers in addition to what everyone here is saying. But mostly I will just be asking the questions. And I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves alphabetically for convenience sake. And we're going to start with Doll.
Hello there, humans. I am Dal Cecil Bruno, the partially blind alien who's an own voices author, aka the Ace from Space. My primary genre is sci-fi, and that's the one I'm querying for traditional. And then I write short stories that in different genres that are self-published. So I'm kind of a hybrid already, but I am pursuing traditional for my novels. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Haley. You know, I didn't think it would be possible to get more nervous after my panel today, but I'm nervous. I am pursuing traditional publishing with YA fantasy and YA contemporary, and I'm just at the start of my journey, haven't queried or anything, but I am submitting to Pitch Wars next week, and we will see what comes of that. So, thank you.
Ooh, good luck.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Holly Davis, also known as Write Holly Davis. I am a YA and middle grade fantasy writer. I queried last year and I'm hoping to start querying a new manuscript early 2021. So yes, I am definitely in the traditional publishing route because I want and need help and support.
Okay, hello everybody. I am Jennifer Aline, or the Right Mama on social media. I have queried since my second finished manuscript in 2012, and I have right now my book coming out through a small press in early 2021. I've queried for 3 other books, and I've also, my editor found me through PitMad on Twitter, so I heard over here. No, that way. Oh, that way. I'm confused. Yes. Haley talking about Pitch Wars, which is exciting. And yeah, my toddlers are asleep, so I'm happy right now and I can hang out all night.
Hi guys, my name is Phoebe Ross. I am pursuing traditional publishing. I've got my work in progress is a YA contemporary, and I started querying that in March. And then everything happened. So it's been kind of an up and down road, but I'm really, really excited. I'm also really new to AuthorTube. So it's an honor to be here with you guys. You're legends. And yeah, thank you for letting me be part of this. I'm excited to hear your all's thoughts on this as well.
Hey everybody, I'm Sarah Crawford. I am a YA author. I am a hybrid. Recently, I have self-published like 4 books, 4 YA books, and then my first traditionally published book just came out with a small press. Yeah, so I'm new to the hybrid world.
Hey guys, I'm Savvy from Savvy Writes Books, and I am a hybrid author as well as a small business owner producing books, as well as a person who works for a small press. So I currently have 8 self-published books out as of last Tuesday. Awesome. Newest one just came out, y'all. And my next book, actually my next book is going to be self-published as well, but the one after that is coming out in 2021 through a new small press. And also I work as an editor for a small press that was previously only publishing magazines and is now branching into books for the first time. So I'm the editor for that, so that's kind of fun. So got a little bit of experience all over the place.
All right, so I'm Scarlett Cole. I'm yet another hybrid author. I have 2 books with 2 different small presses. They both came out in 2018 and actually 2 weeks from each other, so that was pretty chaotic. I have a YA dystopian with one press, and I have a YA paranormal with another. I also have a YA fantasy fairy tale series that I have self-published, and I have 2 YA paranormals that are set to come out this year self-published as well. So.
Awesome. So we have some questions that, oh, someone disappeared.
Doll.
Yeah, Doll, sometimes her internet gets weird, and the internet gremlins come and eat her. So she'll be back.
Okay. Once she comes back, I will add her back in. Anyway, we have some questions that our fearless leader, Keelan, of the AuthorTube Virtual Retreats has given me, and I will be popping them on screen. And then if people have any questions, please pop them in the comments, and I will be putting them up when it comes time to do like the Q&A section. I'm quickly gonna just welcome everyone who's in the comments. There are a lot of people here, and if I went through everyone by name, we would probably like not have enough time to do a panel with so many people. So I'm glad you could make it to a panel while it's live, Melanie, and welcome to your first live stream on my channel. Okay, so the first question is, why did you choose the traditional publishing path?
Which order do you want to go in here?
Anyone who speaks first.
Okay, well, I already started. Let's go. Why did I choose traditional publishing? Traditional publishing because I figured I'd probably go self-publishing at some point anyway, because I'm like a super control freak. But I really wanted to understand the process and understand publishing. And like, honestly, it was sort of, I didn't know if I had the chops for it. I had gone through a lot of critique groups and various different things, and everybody's like, oh, you're great. But I really wanted to see if I could sell a book and see what that entailed. Plus, dealing with certain editors, I think that it's been really helpful for me, because had I just hired an editor, I probably would have been like, psh, I don't need to listen to this. But going through a process where it's like, no, you need to make these edits or we're not going to publish your book. You take a different stance to editing and the editing process and knowing what's normal and what's not. So that's kind of why I wanted to do that, was just to really get that experience with an editor and to really see what it was about before I jumped in both feet on my own.
Nice. For me, it was just kind of like, I wanted to experience a little bit of everything. So I had self-published a couple books, and then I had started my own business, Forever Home Friends, in 2017. And through that business, I produced books. And for the past 5 years, I've been writing for a magazine. So I've been having that experience of having an editor at a magazine telling me what to publish and what to print. And then my boss there was kind of like, hey, we're going to branch out into books. You want to edit for that? And I was like, absolutely, yes. And so then I was like, I want to try the traditional publishing process for myself and kind of see what it's like with, you know, I had one particular book where I was like, in this book, I want editor feedback. Like this one I just put out, which is about my business owner journey. I'm like, no, this is all me. I'm going to ramble and say whatever I want because this is about my business owner journey. But then now that I'm doing like a YA sci-fi coming of age thing where I'm like, oh, this feels a lot more like a traditional on the market type of thing. Let's see what an editor would tell me. Let's see how working with a professional cover designer might be. So for me, it was kind of like different books for different methods, trying out different types of projects, and it all depends on the context of each one.
Yeah, and another thing that like as a YA writer that you can think about is you know, most of the people that read indie YA are actually adults. So you know, I wrote a time travel YA that I thought would actually work better towards like a actual teen audience. So that's why I went kind of the more traditional route with that particular book. Because like I feel, you know, you get more teen readers in the traditional route.
We're going to need to talk because my only traditionally published book is also a time travel YA. So there's some magic happening.
Good times.
I just want to quickly say for Doll, who can't read the question that is being answered currently is, why did you choose the traditional publishing path? So if you want to jump in, Doll, or if anyone else who hasn't answered yet wants to jump in right now, go for it.
I'll jump in.
I have an answer. Yeah.
Oh, Doll, go.
Oh, sorry,
You go,
lag.
Doll.
I have very. Yeah. Okay. Well, the question is. Wait, hang on. The question is. Why did you? No, traditional. Okay. But to be very honest with everybody, I have a disability. I am visually impaired, and if I want to put out quality, I need professional help, and I cannot afford it because I am also below the poverty line. So, yeah, traditional publishing is my way.
That's a good reason. I'll go. So, like most of you said, we wanted some support, and I'll admit from the beginning, I always said I want to be one of those people that you walk into Barnes and Noble, you see your book right there. Da, 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 da. I mean, you say that as a kid, and you don't realize how freaking hard it is to get your book right there. But I've always wanted, like you said, to have an editor and team right there saying, you got to do this, and even the nice thing about a small press is you do have a little bit of say. There's some other small press people here. You do have a little bit of, at least with my small press, some kind of input into it, a tiny bit. With some of the big five, you wouldn't. But I think for me, maybe I might like self-publish a children's book down the road. I've always wanted to do that someday. When it comes to my novels, traditional publishing, it just, I wanted that support and the editors and professionals to help me out. And maybe someday I'll get into a big five. I'm okay with small presses though. They make me happy.
And if I could add to kind of what you guys are saying, I don't know how many books inspired you as a kid, like the first book that just rocked your world. But was it traditionally published? I just know that the books that changed my life, I'm writing in the social justice space. And so my comp authors are like Angie Thomas and Nick Stone. And I wonder like where I would be in my life if they hadn't been at Barnes and Noble that day.
That's a good
So
point.
it's like, I wouldn't have their books if I had done a different route. Not that I may not have been, I may have been wildly successful, but I wonder how many, teenagers are gonna need this book and they're gonna only be able to get it at their library or something like that. I don't know.
I think also with that over there, was as a lot of us, I'm guessing we're all in a similar age-ish, maybe. I could be wrong. But like for us, there wasn't, Amazon when we were like teens or younger. So we had Barnes and Noble. I think that for me, going into Barnes and Noble, I was like, wow, I want this. This is what I want. And it's cool now that there's ebooks and audiobooks and those things. But I think for some of us, we're like, this is what I want because it started so young. So that's a really good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or Borders, depending on how old people are. That's where I went.
I love Borders.
That's where I went. Yeah, like I said, I wanted the support, and I know a lot of people that go into self-publishing, they want all of the control. They're very type A, and that's not me at all. I'm like, I have no idea what would be good for a cover, and I feel like, because I have anxiety, I would be too overwhelmed, and I need someone to be like this or this, and I'll be like this instead of having to come up with it all on my own.
Definitely the support factor for traditional publishing. That's mainly why, that's a big reason why I'm pursuing it too, but also the chance to have stories that I want to tell easily accessible to a wide audience, because I'm writing queer YA fantasy, and honestly, it's a whole different conversation, but writing and reading what I read has been a big part of why I want to publish and why I want to traditionally publish, and why I want to get my books in those same spaces for those kids who were like me, who didn't have them and who need them, especially now with the whole burst of queer YA that's been going on, especially in contemporary and fantasy, but all over the place, and I just want to be a part of that.
That's awesome.
I want to be one of the voices for disability. One, because I am not the only one. Yeah, I just want, if there are disabled kids or like people in general, it doesn't have to be just for the kids. Adults read too. But like, I want to be a writer that people can say, hey, look at her. I mean, she's doing this. She's doing it, and she's writing, and she's doing many things. And like, a disability is not going to stop me. So it's like, I just want to show people that we are allowed to have lives and dreams and goals like everybody else.
I like that.
Those were all great answers. Before I move on to the second question, Eva, who's here, had her third grandchild born today, so congratulations. But the reason I'm also popping this up on screen is partially self-serving, because she said, in lieu of congrats, please hit like and share the screen online. So please do that. And then if I can find it, our fearless leader, Keelan, also made a public service announcement for everyone to get up, stretch, have some water, and save your work if you haven't recently. Okay, back to the questions. Second question, what are the pros of traditional publishing? I know a lot of people have kind of talked about why they picked it for the support, but if you want to go into more specifics or reiterate what you said in your previous answer, please.
No upfront costs. Let's be real.
No upfront cost. Yeah.
Yeah, you do get that advance, which is, they're investing in you, and you get that, whether that's spread out across, however many months or years.
If you go with a small press, there might not be an advance.
No. Yeah, I'm not getting any advance for this book, unfortunately.
Exactly.
But
there's no
on the
upfront
bright
cost.
side, gonna get a professional cover design for the first time. I love making my own covers, and I'm really passionate about visual art and that kind of thing. So I'm always happy to make my own covers, but I'm really excited to see what someone else does with my cover concept, like my concept for the book, what they would do on the cover. So that'll be fun.
See, I think I'm a good graphic artist, but like I'm not the best, so that's why I want like a professionally designed cover, because I know that my image would not be the final thing.
It's gonna be cool.
I am so with you on this one, because again, I have designed sketches for my books that I want to query. So like, look at me, I'm crazy. I already have a sketch of how I envision my covers. If I go with a small press, maybe I have a say, and it's good to have a sketch because yay. But I am no professional. I cannot possibly do this on my own. Dull blind. So you know what I mean.
I think too, like, an agent is someone I want because they're going to champion for my book and help me get like world rights and, help with other deals that like you couldn't get otherwise. So I think that it opens the doors for that too.
I listened to a lot of, actually Meglator on iWriterly. I met her at a conference in 2016. We hung out a bunch, and I've been following her obsessively. And I follow a lot of people who tell me the steps of self-publishing, and holy crap, I could not keep up with all the different places, like Bethany Atzadeh, I don't know how I say your last name, but there's a lot of other people I follow. And I am so impressed, but I don't think I would be crying every day. I couldn't figure it out because of all the different places and the finances. And so I would have a very hard time doing it all. And I'm a leader. I like doing it all, but that gives me anxiety. So for all of you who have done that, huge, lots of clap, because that's a lot. So that's,
for me, I did like, shameless plug, I have a pros and cons of self-publishing that covers traditional publishing stuff on my channel. If you want to check it out, www.youtube.com/struggle.
Anyway, channels on everyone on this channel, their channels are linked. That's what I'm trying to say.
Perfect. But two of the things that haven't been mentioned so far for me were street cred. Even though I know indie is very different now and it's got a lot more popularity, my family, my friends, they did not see writing for me as anything other than a hobby until someone was going to publish my book. considering self-publishing, it was still a hobby to them. But until somebody was like, I'm going to publish your book for you, they did not take me seriously. I also do find when I do other things with my indie books or whatever, people do seem to take me more seriously, even though I'm with a small press, just because I have these small press books there. Even though, you know, some of my self-published stuff I think is even better than those books because those were earlier in my career. But it doesn't seem to matter. So there are people that still have that stigma against self-publishing. So having some sort of traditional, even in your portfolio, will make a difference. The other thing is support in terms of marketing. A lot of traditional people still have to do a lot of their own marketing. It is not how it used to be in that everything's going to be covered. If you are mid-list to bottom list or with small press, you are going to be doing the hustle mostly yourself anyway, regardless of which route you take. However, they do have reach, especially if you're a new author, that you wouldn't normally have. They have groups, they have some established readers, people who do keep coming back. So there is some sort of network that has already started. Some of the small presses I have groups where the authors can talk and like bounce ideas off each other, help promote each other. So there is a support network that does come with that. With self-publishing, you can still have, but you need to build on your own.
Yeah, with my small press, it's kind of like a community, and I feel like all the authors support each other, and we're always sharing each other's posts on social media and things like that. So I feel like, but I mean, the indie author community is also very supportive. So I guess that's a pro of both, really.
That's why I want to be hybrid. I want to be everywhere.
That's the way to be.
Does anyone else have anything to add, or do we want to go to the third question? Okay, let's go to the third question. Very briefly, I'm going to leave the banner off so that people can see everyone's names, because that was a question asked in the chat, although Eva was great and said who we were left to right in the grid. There have also been multiple requests that we do the Brady Bunch thing, so maybe at the end.
Alice.
What? Totally. I don't know who I am.
Am I Alice?
I mean,
I think
you're
so.
all going to crucify me for this, but I've never seen the Brady Bunch, so I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Me neither.
Now I feel old.
I just know it's a thing, so we could do that later. So question 3 is the flip side. What are the cons of traditional publishing?
And this is Phoebe speaking, I would love to just, there's a con that I wanted to list as a pro and be like, well, for some people it's a con, but I know that a lot of people don't love the idea of the gatekeeping. Some people see traditional publishing as there's a lot of red tape or a lot of approval that you have to get. And also, I just see it as like one more person that says it's ready, one more person, I don't know, maybe it's validation and needs of that, but I also feel like a lot of people have the lack of creative control. But I'm like, give me the best possible cover that the smartest possible person can come up with. I don't necessarily care as much, at least in my opinion, how it's formatted or the colors in the cover. As long as the best people have vetted it, I will trust that. It's not my thing that I thought was pretty that I could be wrong about, which is a fear of mine. Not a con to me.
I think as an intern who was reading things from the slush pile, but also things that were requested from, I think mostly DV Pit, but also some PitMad stuff. They were just filling I was reading for 3 different agents at the time, so I was always reading stuff. Something that I found really frustrating was that there would be stories that either weren't requested or had been, but based on my thoughts, with some were positive, some were negative, but sometimes I thought a story was worth taking the chance on, and my boss would say no, and it's not just an author getting an agent's approval. First of all, if it's a like really well-known agency, you're going through maybe an intern, then maybe an assistant, and then an agent. So that's 3 right there. And then the agent has to find an editor who's interested in it. And then any editor, unless they're the senior editor at a house, has to convince everyone else in the department that the money for the imprint for that year should be partially allocated to this book. And that is very hard. A lot of things get lost along the way because I know that there are people on Twitter who definitely and rightfully complain that there aren't enough diverse authors out there.
I have thoughts.
But there were stories that I liked that were diverse and they weren't picked by my bosses. And there were some that, just weren't well written enough for me to like feel like I should pass it on to my boss at that time. But there were ones where I was like, oh, there are some tweaks and it would need revisions, but this is such a good story. And my boss just didn't agree. So I think the con of it is that while, yes, you have all these people making sure it's the best it can possibly be, you have the opportunity for it to get like lost in
Very
and never see the light of day.
I have thoughts.
Yeah, I can. Oh, sorry. Go
I have
ahead.
thoughts, and I'm just going to say it. One of the cons of traditional publishing as a minority author, and guys, I have all the minorities, not just blind. I have all of them in one package. So, hey, I don't expect any advances. Blind, biracial, I am blind, biracial, asexual, pagan, mental health struggles, poverty line. I'm a foreigner. I mean, I have all of them. Okay. I'm adopted. All of them. You name it. I have it. So one of the cons is that they say they want diversity. And that's, cookie points. Let's be real. I'm transparent. It's cookie points. A lot of people are just paying lip service because it's trendy. Sorry, but yeah. It's to be nicer, traditional publishing is a business. Not many people are willing to take big risks, and if you are too many minorities in one, well, you are a commercial risk because you are too other, too unrelatable, or too whatever. It's very subjective. So my con is that there's a lot of lip service, a lot of gatekeeping, and it's very subjective. So someone might have liked my story, but the decision, the final decision was just no because it's too risky or something.
Yeah, I would say honestly, in my opinion, I personally see more cons to traditional publishing than pros, even though I'm really excited to try it for the first time. But for me, I guess the main reason I didn't pursue it sooner was that I wanted to be a small business owner. And when it comes, like, you can still be a small business owner as a writer for a publisher, like, that's fine. For me, like, when I came up with Forever Home Friends and I was like, I have a business model in mind. I want to do this book in this plushie collection and I have my own branding set. And I didn't, as like having a business owner mindset, I was not comfortable working for a royalty percentage when I should be working for entire profit when minus cost of materials. So just like with my business mind, traditional publishing just doesn't compute sometimes. So I would say that's probably the biggest con, in my opinion, is that you essentially, you're kind of an employee for someone else rather than your own business owner. Although I don't mind doing that on the book that I'm doing traditional publishing with right now, because that one is outside of the business that I've created. So, again, context always matters. But I also agree with what Dal is saying about not wanting to take certain risks. I feel like, you could say, like, to an extent, it's like, oh, yeah, traditional publishing is looking for more, like, queer stories and that kind of thing. But indie authors really began that movement and that push and deserve the credit for it. So, yeah. So I'd say that there's pros and cons in that area. So,
I'll jump off what you guys are saying. I kind of mentioned this in my when I was just talking like an hour ago, really fast. There's a story when I was querying my second book, and an agent showed interest and asked for the full book, and they gave me feedback, and they really wanted to take me on, and they said that they would take me on if I switched from first person to third person. And they gave me that saying, and I was like, cool. Well, I really want an agent. And I love first person. I'm one of those people, I just love first person. So I went through the book and I changed it to third person, which, how long does that take? A little bit. And then they came back and said, no, thank you. So you can, it's so tricky when it comes to traditional publishing in that space, is they can say certain things. They'll check, like you said, you'll check to the next level. Maybe they really don't want that story. And then they come back saying that. And a little con for, I know there's a few small press people here, and I'm in a small press as well with my book, that I've discovered is the small press I'm with is very new, and there's not a lot of editors. There's a good group of them, and they know what they're doing. But it's also different with a small press because for example, mine, they don't have any really, really professional. The cover artists they have are good, but I'm going to really have to work with them. There's certain parts of their style that maybe I don't think I mesh with as much. So that's going to be kind of something interesting when it comes to that point. So when it comes to traditional publishing too, you jump on board with a team, which is really cool. But if your style doesn't click, and they get the say. So it's going to be interesting. And I took that all into account before I signed the contract. But but that's another thing when it comes to small presses they are a little different with certain things here and there. That's what I've noticed.
Similar story to that, because when back in 2016, before I put out my novel One Final Vinyl, I eventually self-published it. I considered querying it for traditional publishing at first, and it got a lot of full manuscript requests and a lot of consideration, which was nice, and it felt promising. But a lot of the feedback I would get from potential agents would be things like, this story, there's too, or either like the story's too depressing and doesn't show enough change, or it would be like the story says that the character's depressed, but I'm not, like, you didn't really or something like that. And I'm like, no, this is an Own Voices mental health book. So to an extent, it was like, I feel like, I don't know, when you're telling something from your own perspective and someone outside of that perspective can't always grasp what it is you're doing, but then your target audience of people who have the same mental illness will read it and be like, oh yeah, I get it. So there's some of that, I feel like, to an extent as well.
Yeah, I think another obvious con with traditional publishing is just the amount of time that everything takes.
Yes.
It just, it takes just like years, to get anything done. So it's like, it's easy to just be able to kind of move a little faster.
And then a pandemic happens and everything gets pushed anyway.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
One thing I do want to mention as a con, though, is definitely the cover stuff like you were talking about. I had a couple of things that we've already touched on here. I had the experience of querying a dystopian book after Hunger Games. I got so much great feedback. This is awesome. I love it. This is a fantastic story. I love the characters, but I can't sell it. So it didn't matter how good my book was. They couldn't sell it. It wasn't a trend. I was out. The other issue that I had was the other book that I had going on. I got in with a traditional publisher. Everything was great. I got my cover and I hated it. It was awful. Not great. And that was what I was stuck with. I didn't really have an option. The only thing that worked out really well and why I can talk about this is they actually went under, which is a whole other thing that can happen to you. Right before the book was supposed to be released, the press closed. So then I was out. I had worked on this book with them for almost 2 years. And then it was like, yeah, sorry, bye. So fortunately, I did manage to sell it again rather quickly now that it had been because we'd already gone through the editing process and all that stuff. So it was a much better book than when I tried to sell it the first time. And I got a fantastic cover out of the deal. But even with that one, I did not have much say on that cover. It was, here you go. And fortunately, they did have a good artist, and I was happy with it. But with one small press, I had a lot of input, and I worked with the artist directly. The other one was like, here you go. Do you have any issues with the font? So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You go.
Oh, I was just going to say really quick, is that you can sell your first book and it's not going to guarantee that you sell the second book. You might not be able to write the rest of the series, so it's like, there's always that risk too.
Yeah, we talked about that a bunch on Sage's panel this afternoon. We're writing a series, and yeah, so we talked about that. So I believe I linked that in the description down below. So people should watch that if you didn't get to catch it live. I want to kind of move quickly through the next few questions so we can get to questions in the chat because it's already 9:35. I'm going to very quickly touch on what publishing paid me. It was a nightmare on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter because you think Twitter is a giant cesspool of negativity, which is totally
accurate.
Basically, authors of color and other diverse backgrounds were tweeting how much they got paid, and the numbers were very, very small in comparison to white and other mainstream, like not mainstream in the sense that they're like not marginalized in any way, authors for like similar books. And it wasn't good. There were cases of like multiple, like 100 times bigger or difference smaller, depending which way you cut it. And I'm taking a master's publishing course through my school about traditional publishing. And we talked about it in class. And during my internship, I also had to deal with contracts, although not as much as the reading. Every deal has a boilerplate. Every house has a boilerplate contract, which is like, this is what we would normally offer for a book of this type, of this deal. And then every agent does their best to get a good deal for their author. And it is also, every book is technically, every book deal is technically tailored to the book. So while that is an alarming trend, it doesn't guarantee anything. But like we said with other things, it's like, it's not a great trend. So I want to put that out there, that before you completely write off traditional publishing, if that's what you want, it wasn't a good thing they did. It's not a good thing that they're doing now necessarily, but if you want to try that route, there's no reason you shouldn't try. Okay. Keelan had a question. Let's see. Ooh, lots of questions came in, and then the comments just suddenly jumped the moment I clicked.
Melody's got a good one I want to jump on. I just saw that.
Okay, hold on, wait. I just realized we had, okay, we did the cons. Very quickly, what was your querying process like? That's an important question, and I realized I didn't want to skip that before we.
Lots of troubleshooting. Lots of troubleshooting and tweaking to find out, is it the first pages? Is it the query? Is it this? What do I need to change? Is it just not finding the right agent? This and that. So it's just a long process and just lots of tweaking and lots of tweaking. Lots of waiting and timelines. If on Query Manager, this person on average responds in 2 days, and they get back to you in 2 weeks, and it's like, okay. So like, just nothing ever goes as you plan.
Lots of obsessively refreshing your inbox. That happens.
Lots of anxiety. Lots of anxiety. I have to be very calm with myself. Like, I don't query like people. I don't mass query. I don't do that. I am very sniper. Like, I select like 2 or 3 maximum, and I query them separately. So like, I query one and wait for that one to reject me, and then I query the next one. And I know that sounds painfully long, but I prefer that because anxiety. And until, I don't know, there was a lot of tweaking, and I do follow the rules of the websites. So I am not one of those who submits to an agent that's like YA when I'm writing adult. No. I am very, very selective, because otherwise my anxiety is going to eat me alive. So I'm a perfectionist. I'm sending them the best that I have ever. Or so I think, and then I tweak again. But you know what I mean. The best I have at the time. Yeah. So the last query that I sent, I still got rejected. but that last particular query got me direct feedback. Like it was the first was the copy paste, where you are not what we're looking for at the time, the copy paste that everybody gets. But underneath that, there was like direct feedback about like mention of my character, my book, like what they liked.
Good. That's
Yeah.
good.
So that was my last query, and I am nearly giving up after that.
Oh,
But the highs can be really good when you get.
Yes.
I had one day in 48 minutes, I received a full rejection, a form rejection, and then a full request. And so I was just sitting there, and the person in the cubicle next to me kept feeding me chocolate because I was like, oh no. And then like, oh no, it's even worse. And then I'm like, oh, but this, he's like, congratulatory chocolate. But it's kind of up and down all the time.
I want to say about the whether or not you wait to query multiple agents at once, or if you do it one by one, or if you do it in small groups. Like I mentioned earlier, agents have to then kind of step into the author's role and pitch it to editors at houses. And what I learned, although it makes total sense, is that agents need to know what editors want. But in addition to that, they have this thing called blowing up a house. And it's basically if you send it to one editor within one house and they reject it, that house is gone. It's no longer an option. Whereas within an agency, sometimes you can, you generally shouldn't query 2 agents in one agency at once. But some of them are okay with, if one rejects it, you can then query a different agent within the same agent. So the idea is the best way that I was told from my boss is for people to, send it out to some people. And then if you get feedback, then you can revise based on how you want. But you get feedback from multiple people, so you can kind of see like a consensus from more professional people than just a group of beta readers. And then you can send out for another round, which is slightly faster than doing it one by one, but not all at once, where if you blow it, you blew it.
And I'll just jump in, and this is Phoebe speaking. Definitely small batches was the way I went. It was small batches, wait for feedback, and I had one agent that said the first chapters were slow. Another agent said the first chapters are too fast. Another agent said the first chapters are all wrong. And then a full request. It's wait for feedback. And the other part of querying process that if you're considering traditional publishing just as a friend, do the research and then do more research. And I actually recommend, especially during how chaotic things were during COVID times, if you can check the agent's Twitter, because there are some agents that are strongly going to be aligned with where you want to go in your career, and some that will surprise you with how much they are not aligned with where you want to go in your career. There are people during this season that I was going to query that got swiftly removed from the list, having seen their tweets. There are also some houses that got swiftly removed from my list. So especially between March, April, May, June of 2020, see how people were reacting. Did they have compassion with everything going on? It was really a testament to how they do business under pressure. And you can also find out, oh, this agent has 4 children and are homeschooling. Your career might take a little longer to bounce back, and knowing that research ahead of time, that's the most important part of the process, I think, that I've learned.
I'm sure that a lot of people have videos on like pros and cons. I actually just put out like what don't do this when querying, and I will fully admit a huge don't that I did like a decade ago. I remember querying my first book. I'm not even like I'm turning 32 next week. I still feel like a baby. But I remember the first book that I queried, I sent like in the mail. I did snail mail with those. And then the second book that I queried, I did the worst thing ever, which you should never do, is CC in a whole list of agents. I'm admitting this to everybody right now that I did this a decade ago. And I've learned so much. Obviously, I still got full manuscript requests. That was the one that I got for the whole switch point of view. But that was like all I got. But that's a no. So I just wanted to throw that out for querying. And I've learned a lot since then. I don't do that. I do bunches when I do it as well. But like we've all said, do your research. Make sure if you have a comp title that's something similar to what that agent has worked with, put that in there so they know you've looked into that agency. That gives you genuine feedback. I feel like I've gotten a lot of really, like Dal was saying, like an actual genuine feedback, which is a great thing, even if it's a rejection. It shows that they took the time to interact with you. But just don't do the CC thing. Just don't do that. Just putting that out there.
Never do that.
Also, quick thing, as someone who had to read a ton of queries, try to keep your like pitch paragraph as short as possible. There were pitches that the pitch themselves were good, and I would read the whole thing because that was my job. Like I have a bunch of clients where it's like, this is the short amount of time I have to allocate to like potential new manuscripts. But if you're not concise, your chances of getting up to where you need to get, not so great. Like if you think it's long, it's too long. If you read it out loud to a friend and they have to pause you at all, too long. If you like are reading it and you can't find a period quickly from the beginning to the end of each sentence, your sentences are too long. You want it fast, short, snappy. It doesn't have to be what you envision as the back of your published book, but it needs to be fast-paced because otherwise the number of people who have to read it are just going to not read it.
From the other side of the querying, from reading other people's queries as an editor for a small press right now, I would say the number, like the one thing, I don't get annoyed easily, but the one thing that annoys me is if the author tells me how I should feel. Like in the pitch, if in the query letter they're like, this book will make you cry, this book will make you laugh, this whole section of the book will warm your heart and make you excited. It's like, I don't think you should tell me how to feel. Like you don't own, like it's like you don't own my emotions. I'll feel however I want to feel.
Hearing this,
that's just a side thing. Like
yikes,
anxiety.
Oh, Dal, it wasn't you. That I'm referring to a completely different person's pitch that you have never met. It was not you. Do not worry.
I know, but like, hearing your thoughts on queries is
I
like,
promise it wasn't you. This was what I got like a long time ago. But yeah, when you seeing that kind of thing, because it's just like, I don't know. I like to read a letter that's like, here's what the story's about. Here's a little bit on me as an author. But you if you want to inject emotion into your writing, you want to tell me that your story is really fast paced and exciting, you can write your synopsis really fast paced and exciting, you know, but don't say like, my story is going to excite you so much. It's more like when someone tells me, this is how you're going to feel. I know it. Like, you don't know that. I've never met you.
Kind of going off on queries, the last question that we had before the live stream started was a question from Instagram, where is it more common when querying to get a no reply instead of a not interested letter? I'm going to just answer this so that we can actually get to the Q&A section. Agents get thousands of emails almost like every day. And on a good day, they have maybe 1,000 of unread, and that's not even including the emails that they have read and know that they want to write back to for please revise, or please send a partial, or please send a full. So the chance of you getting an answer is not that high. I think, like Holly said, you can't always go by what Query Manager or their website says based on like how long, but I generally, unless like the world hasn't, completely upended like it did this year, after like a month or two, I would basically just call it quits on that agent and like move on, because they don't have the time to write in-depth, not interested letters. And even the copying and pasting is more difficult than you would assume, because not every agent uses Query Manager yet. Yeah, Query Tracker is for authors going after agents, and then Query Manager is the sister website that they use and I had to use. And you can do a form rejection, but not every agency has switched over to that system. So expecting a rejection is, you almost want a rejection letter rather than no answer, but you should expect a no answer if it's a rejection. Okay, questions. Keelan wanted to know if it's true that traditional publishing wants a book that's basically already polished before they accept it. I don't know if you guys have comments or if it's something I should handle.
I know, I forget who was saying it. I heard it somewhere on AuthorTube this week, that a lot of people are busier now and they don't have the time to like help you like go through the revisions.
It was me.
Especially if they're homeschooling their kids. Oh, okay. Yeah. And then if
or Alexa
if they are a more seasoned agent, then they have more clients, which means they have less time. So I probably think that like newer agents might be more willing to go through, or if they're an editorial agent.
That was Alexa Dunn. Yeah, that was not me. That was Alexa Dunn. But I just followed up with that because like agents, I just saw the comment by Keelan, like that agents want something super polished, and I mean that worries me. That worries me.
We'll just we'll just think the odds. Like you just said, they get 1,000 emails a day. So the choice between picking somebody who's polished versus picking somebody that's not polished, what you're going to make your life as easy as possible. And when you're getting that many manuscripts and you need just anything to make that pile smaller, you go, okay, not polished, out. I'm not even reading that. I'm only going to read the stuff that's really good.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, but when you have that amount of volume, it's just not possible.
And there are ways through Query Tracker, Query Manager. Oh my God, I have spent too much time talking to authors today that I keep talking about the wrong website. Query Manager can filter out things that don't meet their requirements. Every agent can put what they want, and if a query doesn't match that, it doesn't get to them at all. They will never see it. And even if they do see it, like I said, there's just so much to go through. Regarding, like Holly said, a newer agent might be more willing. I definitely know that unlike in editing in a publishing house, there are like specific levels of being an editor, and like every 2-ish years you move up. When you're an agent assistant, you don't know how long you're going to be an agent assistant before you become an agent yourself. But if you see an agent assistant listed on an agency's website and they have an email and they say that they're open to queries, query them. They might not have a list of their own, but they are looking for new books, because once they become an agent in their own right, they're no longer going to be working on their boss's stuff. So they will have more time to contribute to new books. And that's what happened with my 3 bosses. 2 of them, one was the assistant for the other. And then since I left the agency, he became an agent in his own right. So I was helping him build his list as his intern. So yeah, go for agents who maybe aren't as established, but are at agencies that you trust for your better chance.
Sentence, if I could throw it out there. As for like a polished book, I try to just, my friends and family are like, isn't it done yet? Isn't it done yet? Why isn't it good enough yet? I try to explain to them, I'm trying to think of my manuscript in the traditional publishing path with advances. How quickly can they make this a $5,000 document? How quickly can they make this a $10,000 document? How much effort do they see to get it into a $30,000 document or more, or series? So if it doesn't feel like it could become a $30,000 plus document, then it might not be ready.
Good point.
That's one of the reasons why I'm focusing my energy on like submitting to pitching contests and mentorship programs right now, because I feel like there's only been so much I can do with my own work and with my own story right now. And with sending it off to beta readers too, like there's only so much that work can go into the book, which I feel like I need somebody else to not validate my story, but like see like the parts that I couldn't and that I like don't necessarily know what to do with, how to make it to that point where it's polished enough to query.
Mhm.
Keelan wants to know what marketing experience has been like in traditional. I guess kind of a question is like, what do they do for you / what do you have to do for yourself? It seems like.
I haven't gotten there yet exactly. So I want to hear from the other small pressers. I know it's all different, but
Small press is obviously going to be different than Big Five.
I know, yeah.
So that's a hard thing to say for that. But in terms of the small presses I've been with, they have put you up for reviews. They will sometimes put you up for awards if it's applicable. They will send out art copies. They will, like I said, there was author, like they have Facebook groups and stuff where everybody can communicate and see if there's things that can help with. One of the presses that I'm with, she's constantly like posting articles on how you can market, how you can do things. They all have their own websites. They all have their own social media. So when it's coming out, it's going to push it. If you are up for an award or you're pushing your book on your own, on your social media, sometimes they'll pick that stuff up and push it through their channels as well. You still do have to do a lot on your own, like in terms of if I want to do ads, that's on me. If I want to do a contest, that's on me. Swag, mine. Like that's all my own cost, especially with small. They're not sending you to signings. They're not sending you to cons. If you're doing that stuff, you're doing it on your own dime, which is super fun. But yeah, it's more of a support network, and they help you out the gate. But also when they're smaller, they need to be on that next title all the time, right? So they're constantly releasing books, and they're moving on to the next best thing all the time. So you do fade out of glory very quickly if you aren't giving them more titles to work with.
Yeah, I also think you do have to like pay for a lot of that stuff if you want to go to events, on your own. But the good thing about that is you can kind of get together with other authors in your small press and like go as a group, so you can kind of split expenses that way.
That's cool.
I feel like we've kind of answered Kara's question about what's the cost you end up covering, even though you're traditionally published. If anyone wants to add something else to that.
Like Scarlett said, swag and certain things. I've talked to my editors about some ideas that I have when it comes to marketing my book at some of the local places here. Like coffee is a huge thing in my book, and I want to talk to a bunch of coffee shops about things. And they said, they like, of course, you have to. They want us to talk with them and pass it through them first, and make sure it's something that would work well for them. So, I mean, it's like that again. The gatekeepers, they want you to talk to them first. And with self-publishing, you can just go do it, and it's great. Doesn't matter. So that's kind of, you have to do that, pay for it,
Another big one is book bubs.
Mm-hmm.
Small presses. The ones that most of the ones that I know will cover part of it, but they aren't going to cover the entire cost of a book bub. And depending on what your genre is, that can run anywhere from $50 to $800. So, US. So,
yeah.
One thing that I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Wait, did you say book bugs?
Book bub. Sorry. BOOKBUB.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Also, if you're like not a super like headliner successful author for even a bigger publishing company, you're going to be treated as if you are working with a small press. So I just want to throw that out there, that if you get picked up by a Big Five publishing company, congrats, that's amazing. But like, it doesn't mean that what everyone has just said doesn't apply to you. Yeah, just want to throw that out there. Okay, question about with own voices, stories, do you need to include a trigger warning if it's like a mental health issue that could be upsetting to people? And it says in marketing info, but I think that would also apply to like if you're querying someone. Because
I would like to know.
I had been on Sage Gordon Davis's channel. a few weeks ago, it might be a few months ago at this point, time doesn't exist anymore, where we were doing a chit chat with people from the Sprint Squad Discord, and we talked about trigger warnings, and I was talking about why I think they're very important, and I'm planning on making a video about that in the future. But basically, I would say that if you think it needs a trigger warning, do it. If it would have a trigger warning for a movie or a TV show, put it, even if you don't think it's that bad. Because
question,
you know who's reading it.
Where do you put it?
I would put it, have your like synopsis, and then maybe at the end of the synopsis, but before you go into your paragraph about like, this is me as an author, and this is why I'm an own voices author in your case. You want it close enough to the pitch so that it doesn't get missed.
Got it.
Let's see. There are other questions.
I saw a good one Melanie put up. It has to do with COVID, and I want it.
Just found it.
Okay. I have thoughts. So, since I am with a small press, and I know that a lot of small presses have been going under during this time because of the pandemic, I was really excited a year ago. I pretty much signed my contract after Pitt Mad and was very excited. And we had great communication with our small press. However, honestly, for the past 3 months, it's been almost radio silence. So I was very nervous. And a lot of the other authors were very nervous because we knew that a bunch of them are going under, and we've all been very excited. So my personal experience was really, really good, really early on. And I didn't really think that COVID could impact the publishing industry in this that much because, hey, it's remote. Hey, you know, it can't be. I mean, realistically, now we all know that, yes, this impacts everything. So it's been a really exciting experience because, yes, somebody else wants to pick up my book. But these past few months have been very stressful because it's been very slow. My book was supposed to come out December 2020. So small presses usually, it's a little quicker for publishing in some cases. However, I think traditional publishing is definitely being impacted by this. I know a lot of authors in Big Five are being pushed like 2 years or a year, like a lot longer for publishing. So I just had to vent that. I also have to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
I scrolled down a bit to the next question. Catherine asked, if you had an agent but separated amicably, do you mention it in another query, and do you include the agent's name? I would definitely mention that you were previously represented, because that's like a stamp of approval that only adds to your credibility. I can't remember what my boss said about whether or not you should mention the other agent's name. I know queries did, but I wasn't like reading to be like, oh, this agent or whatever. I would just see like, oh, it says they were previously represented, but if the rest of their query was shit, I like didn't pass it on to my boss no matter what. And if the rest of the query was fine, I was like, okay. So to me, it made no difference, but as an agent, it might. So I can't totally answer that question. Sorry.
I mean, I would just say the way I handle it, because I did part ways with my agent, and I always mentioned that I was represented, but I never mentioned her name. And then, later, if someone wants to know, you can get into that later, but I wouldn't say just right up front.
Agents also talk to each other. Like, it's a very the agenting community is small, the editing community is small, and they regularly all talk to each other. So if you piss off an agent, the whole editing community knows, basically. And if you piss off an editor, basically the whole agenting community knows. So maybe withholding a name might be worth it. I don't know. In reply to what Phoebe had said about checking people's Twitter, Keelan said, eyes are the window to the soul. Twitter is the window to hell. I mean, I can't argue.
I get to talk about Twitter tomorrow and why authors should use that to grow their platform. So join tomorrow, 11 a.m. on Angela Ann's channel to find out why you should join Twitter.
I like Twitter. It's negative, but they're positive.
I'm also going to be talking about social media for authors too. So
I feel like I'm in the minority. I like Twitter.
Me too.
I like Twitter. I don't like.
I like Twitter and I hate Twitter. Like I love using Twitter. I love talking to people on it, but if I ever notice that I'm extra stressed, I'm like, maybe I should stop using Twitter, and it actually gets rid of like a whole lot of my problems. So
literally today.
Okay. Very Bad Books was asking, do you print out the whole thing to send via snail mail? Every single agency website, but also specific agent pages, because sometimes they want different things, especially if they do it through email, will say whether or not they want it through email, which is normally the case nowadays. Sometimes they'll have a link that is directly connected to their query manager account, and it's basically, to you, it looks like you're sending an email. To them, it goes through a whole system. Follow those instructions to the letter. Do not do something that they don't want, because the query manager will filter you out if you don't, and if it goes to their actual email, they're just going to delete it after skimming the whole thing very quickly. So if they say they want like a one-page like synopsis and paste it into the body of your email and you attach it as a document, they're going to delete that without reading it. They don't care. So follow those instructions, but they're not the same for every agent, and definitely not for every agency. I don't think that many places are doing snail mail anymore just because of the environmental factor.
Yeah. I mentioned that, and that was literally in like 2007. So it was quite a while ago. Snail mail was going on. I had it like all over the floor, and I was like 18 or, yeah. I don't know, it was a while ago.
Okay, Catherine was following up about the mentioning her former agent and saying former agents that should give a good word if someone asks, but I keep getting mixed messages from other traditionally published writers. Yeah. Honestly, I think saying that you were previously represented is enough to get you in the door. I don't think saying a specific agent's name, unless they're like the most famous like agent for your genre or something, like, I don't think it's worth saying the name in the query. And those look like they're all the questions. Does anyone have any last thoughts they want to say?
Patience.
I'll go just because I have to dash right away. Sorry.
Plug yourself too.
So I was going to say that anyway.
Plug yourself too before you
plug myself. I am Scarlett Cole. I have a channel here, Scarlett Cole. I talk about publishing and writing on Thursdays. I have videos about BookBub, pros and cons of self-publishing. I talk about POV, whatever. Check it out. Super fun. Did some write-ins this morning. Loved it. Going to be checking out stuff tomorrow. My last comment about traditional publishing is it can definitely work for people if that's something that you want to do. You just have to know that your personality and your personality type. It is a hard road, but it can definitely be worth it if you get there. It's a personal decision that everybody has to make for themselves, and you have to figure out what kind of person you are and what kind of career you want and how that matters to you. Do you care about deadlines, or do you want to run things on your own? Do you have the funds to be able to pay to do the things the way you want to do them? Do you care if your book is on the bookshelves in Barnes & Noble? It can still happen in indie, but you need to be able, you got to hustle to be able to do that. Do you want to wait? Do you need the validation? Do you want the validation? Do you care? What kind of stuff are you writing? Are you writing off trend? Are you writing dead genres? You need to figure out what you are as a writer, where you want to be as a writer, and then follow that path and be damned with everyone else. And that's what I got. And I got to go. I'm really sorry. Thank you so much.
Bye, Scarlett.
Oh, no more Brady Bunch. I'm still Alice.
To follow up with her, to follow up with Scarlett, be patient. And this is something that I tell myself every single query, every single day, actually, is maybe I'm not ready yet. Maybe even though my draft seems clean to me, I'm not ready. Maybe I need to still tweak it. Maybe I need more feedback from critic partners. Maybe I need new critic partners. Who knows? It really depends on. Also, I am so different. I am always the first blind author that people know. It's always like, oh, you are the first blind person who decided to write a book. So people don't know what to do with me. So what I have to do is to be patient. And I feel that if I can try and put up that fight and, take that long road, I think we all can. And, stick to your community, be patient, be thankful, Get your safety net because you're going to need it, your support, and just keep trying.
Okay, we are basically at the end of our stream. We're over a little bit. I just want to quickly kind of reward everyone who stayed this long for the stream that the secret word is submission.
That makes sense.
It is, if you're filling out the printable PDF from the AuthorTube Virtual Retreat website, which is linked down below, it is panel number 2. So you don't have to count. Also, someone asked again about like the agency thing. Do you mention the agency and not the agent, or the agent and not the agency, or neither? I think saying you are represented is enough. I think if you want to say anything, you can say the agency, but again, I don't think that's necessary. Eva asked if I would ever do a judging your query letter examples video stream. I guess I would. If anyone on here wants me to judge theirs, you can Instagram message me or email me at Zara Hoffman at zarahoffman.com. That's also to people.
Can we drink wine during this? Can there be? Oh, no, that's done, but I think
I'll be there. I'll be there.
Let's bring the wine, guys.
I'll have to figure out when that'll be. But yeah. Okay, I don't know why this is I was told the word was.
Everybody was saying it. I thought it was funny.
Okay, no, okay. I just got very confused and I was worried. I was like, did I mess up?
Oh no. I just word of the
Lol.
Okay, Keelan, if this is allowed, if people write tweak in parentheses, does that like get them an extra bonus thing? That'd be fun. But for the official record, the word is submission. Sorry. Okay, now that it's officially 10:11, I want everyone to go through and plug themselves one last time before we sign off. So let's do it reverse alphabetically. So Savvy.
Hey, what's up, my fellow small business supporters? It's Savvy from Savvy Writes Books on my channel every Monday and Friday at 11 a.m. Central. I put out new videos about my life as an author and as a small business owner. I am the owner of Forever Home Friends, which is a small business that produces children's books, stuffed animals, and toys based on real rescue dogs and their journeys to getting adopted. So that is what I do. I also just released my newest book, Hashtag Savvy Business Owner, all about how to start your own small business. I released it this past Tuesday. So that was fun. So every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central, I host the AuthorTube Sleepover Writing Sprints live stream. So if you want to have a sleepover party with me and some friends and come write together and wear your pajamas and eat snacks, come join me Wednesday nights. We have lots of fun.
Sarah?
Sarah Crawford. My YouTube channel is just youtube.com/Sarah Crawford. I also just started the Find Creative Expression podcast. It's just me talking to artists and other creative people. So check that out. I would probably love to have like all of you guys on the podcast at some point. So yeah, just listen to it and come talk about art.
My name is Phoebe Ross. Thanks again for coming. Like I said at the beginning, I'm really super new to AuthorTube. I am attempting my first solo sprint tomorrow for this retreat at 3:00. I've had one test run. It was with Holly. Thanks, Holly. Otherwise, I have no idea how it's gonna go. So you should come and cheer me on because I have no idea what we're doing.
You were amazing.
Thanks.
The Right Mama.
That's me. I'm Jennifer Lean, or The Right Mama, on YouTube. I post videos every Friday about writing, publishing, and motherhood craziness because I am the mom of twin toddlers and they're psycho and drive me crazy. What else was I going to say? Oh, tomorrow I have a share a sentence live stream from 11 to 12. I don't like numbers because I just don't like numbers and math. So we're not going to do word count shares. We're going to share a sentence that you wrote that you liked, or maybe just a concept you wrote you liked, just to kind of hear everybody's voice, because that makes me happy and math makes me nervous. So come and hang out.
I will be there. That sounds awesome. I am Write Holly Davis on YouTube. I write YA and middle grade fantasy. I have a book club for BIPOC authors called Diversity is Lit. There's a Facebook group, Instagram.
You want to define what BIPOC means to people who don't know?
Oh, Black, Indigenous, people of color. Yes. So right now through 2020, we're just focusing on Black authors. And there's so many Black authors that I found. I'm like, I don't want to open it up when 2021 comes around, but I want to open it up to include all races and just diversify our bookshelves. So please check that out, because it's really helped me, and we're reading really good books. So I'm super excited.
Haley.
Hi, I'm Haley. I have a YouTube channel that's just my name, Haley Haggerty. I'm also recently new to AuthorTube. I started in July. I am pursuing traditional publishing, mainly write YA fantasy, although I am branching off into YA contemporary and middle grade. And I am pursuing traditional publishing with Pitch Wars next week, so wish me luck. Also, I hosted outlining as a planter today. If you want to, you can go back and watch that, because I had fun. Yeah.
Doll.
All right. Thank you very much for having me here today. I am Dal Cecile Renaud, the partially blind alien who is a known voices author, aka the ace from space. My primary genre is science fiction, but I like to explore other genres with my short stories. I also write some poetry that you can find on my YouTube channel. Usually I stream on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. But tomorrow I have my solo workshop that's called Find Your Bioluminescence, which, judging by that title, is clear that this alien writes sci-fi. And I'm also hosting sprints at 2 p.m. So usual 2 p.m., but tomorrow. What else do I have to say? You can find me all over social media. And I mean, like Instagram, even though I hate it, Twitter, which I love. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I have a website and a newsletter. And I have a Patreon and a Ko-fi, whichever you prefer. But all of that you can find as Dal Cecile Renaud, like you can see on screen. So I am Dal Cecile Renaud everywhere. I like to explore different things. I like to try everything, and I am a diversity package of my own. So thank you.
I love it.
Woo! Thank you to everyone who's still here. Obviously, thank you to Scarlett, who had to leave early. I did message her the secret word because I hadn't gotten to it before she had to leave. My name is Zara Hoffman. I'm a self-published author of young adult paranormal romance. I obviously have an AuthorTube channel. Everyone here, their channels linked down below. Normally on Sundays, I stream at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for 2 hours, but because tomorrow's still the AuthorTube virtual retreat, I will not be doing that. Instead, at 5 p.m. on my channel, I will be talking with Keelan and Shanice Littlejohn about sensitivity readers, what they are, why you need them, why you should pay them, most importantly, and other things. So if you have any questions about that, be sure to come live and pop your questions in the chat like you did here. I hope everyone, and then tomorrow night at the same time, at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Keelan's channel, I will be taking part in the self-publishing channel. So I hope everyone had fun today at the AuthorTube virtual retreat. I hope you all come back tomorrow because there are a lot of good events happening. And